Welcome to Lunch Bunch. In case I haven't met many of you, I don't think I have. My name is Ruth Jones with the Office of Alumni Engagement here on campus. And welcome to our October Lunch Bunch program. If this is your very first Lunch Bunch, thank you so much for logging on and joining us. It's always great to see new faces. And of course, if you're a regular, we love looking for your face every month so we can reconnect. So thank you for your continued support. Today, we are shining our Lunch Bunch spotlight on the new Minds Venture Fund. This fund was officially launched in November of 2023 in concert with the very fast-growing entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem at Minds, which Todd will talk to you more about in detail when he gets started. This is a first for Minds, and there's great energy behind it. So we're anxious to hear all that's going on, Todd. I should say Todd McLean is here with us up in the top right corner, if that's what your screen looks like. Todd is the managing director of the Venture Fund, and he's going to share an overview, as I said, talk about how it started, how it works, plans for its growth, and how you can get involved. So it should be a great program today. Thank you all for joining us. As always, before we get rolling, a few quick reminders. If you've got a question, please feel free to use the chat, or if you're okay with it, Todd, folks can chime in during your presentation as well as afterward, whatever is comfortable for you. A reminder that all of our programs are recorded and can be accessed on the Lunch Bunch page of our alumni website at weare.minds.edu. So if you've missed one, or you want to listen to one again, or share the program with a friend, you can go to this page, access the complete archive of programs that go back now to 2020, which is when Lunch Bunch went virtual. So a nice little resourceful archive for all of you if you're interested in learning more. And as always, if you've got ideas for future speakers, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you're interested in, a program, a department, a campus update of any kind. We are happy to make those connections happen and feature those people on Lunch Bunch. So with that, I will stop talking and let's get started. Please help me welcome Todd McLean to this month's Lunch Bunch. Todd, take it away.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ruth. Thanks for all your help in putting the logistics together and getting me ready for this today, by the way. You're very much appreciated. Good to be with everybody. I'm actually calling you from the Beck Venture Center here in Golden, Colorado. If you haven't been by the Beck Venture Center and you're in town, you're always welcome to drop by. Just come up the top of the stairs, keep walking. You'll run into my office, much like our student, our faculty, our alumni do every day of the week. It's a wonderful location to be at. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share here and we'll get going. Ruth, if you'll just let me know when the share is up.
There it is. Looks good. Can everybody see? Thumbs up. Yep.
Okay, excellent. I thought it'd be great to give you a little bit of context around how the Venture Fund came together, how it fits into the E&I, what we call the Entrepreneur and Innovation ecosystem. And looking at the names that popped up as you were coming into the room, I know many of you have been just tremendously engaged in this initiative for really about 9 years now, and really coming to fruition with the final piece of the puzzle coming together called the Minds Venture Fund #1, our inaugural fund. And it's pretty remarkable. It's unique, one of its kind in the country, and we're leading the way in terms of how we put the program together. So I'll share information about that as we go through. I want to also personify it. What we're doing is really important, and it involves taking ideas to reality, as President Johnson likes to talk and call it. I like to add on to that and to the moonshot. We're truly looking to cause moonshots and great things to occur with the inventions, the ideas that are coming out of Colorado School of Mines. This here is a great picture that's representative of really what we're trying to do, because at the end of the day, it is truly about people and people accomplishing remarkable, challenging, difficult things. But before I talk a little bit about the people, let me advance the slide here. I want to talk about the why. I want to talk about how it fits into the ecosystem, because you might be wondering, how does the Minds Venture Fund 1 fit into the whole picture? You might be thinking about, how does our enormous investment in the entrepreneur and innovation ecosystem over the last 9 years really all fit together? So I want to walk through that first with you. Then I want to bolt in the Minds Venture Fund #1, and I want to talk about the details of it. And then we'll open up for questions and answers. And I'm going to ask, since I'm also sharing here, that Ruth, you probably see people as they come into the weight room, you'll be able to let them in. I don't need to do that. Okay,
Yep,
awesome.
got it.
Okay, I mentioned that our remarkable PCJ had this great vision, gosh, 9.5 years ago, perhaps, and that is that we would have a strong entrepreneur and innovation ecosystem here at Colorado School of Mines. I know what Paul was looking at. He saw we have some of the most world-renowned faculty. We have the most sought-after students coming out of high schools from literally all over the world and coming here to this great institution to become great engineers, to learn about applied science, and then to go out into the world and to be successful and achieve and impact societies, impact humanity, impact the world. But he also saw beyond that. He saw that we also produce remarkable research. And I think we can all on this call be very proud of our R1 status, that we want to celebrate equally to entrepreneurism, and that is to be an R1 institution. And PCJ and our other great partner there, our CEO and president, Brian Winkelbauer, our board of trustees of the university, our board of governors of the foundation had this vision that yes, Minds could take its inventions and its ideas, commercialize them, expand them outside of research, while at the same time honoring and respecting the remarkable accomplishments we have in research. But to begin to go down that path, we had to put in place some physical structures. And you're familiar with those names, but I want to kind of walk down memory lane here and explain why those names are so important today and how they fit into the Minds Venture Fund #1, our inaugural venture capital fund. The idea was, again, taking the ideas to reality, and as I like to add on to that, the moonshot. And I apologize if I look to the left or the right. My monitors are spread here a little bit, so I might lose eye contact with you occasionally through this presentation. But you remember when the McNeil Innovation City began to come out of the ground up there by the museum? And you can see it here in this picture. I think Charlie McNeil had a great view into entrepreneurism, being a great entrepreneur himself. So we need a place that we can have students come together with faculty, and they can learn about some really key fundamental points to doing a startup or to being an entrepreneur. But also you can learn about disciplines and processes that it takes to be a good senior manager in any corporation. And a lot of that was, how do you identify a problem? And one thing Minds is extraordinarily good at doing is teaching students how to problem solve and how to critically think. I can vouch to that. Both of my sons, Connor and Chase, are both Minds grads, and I saw how Minds shaped their thinking, and they're remarkably successful today. So McNeil was a place where we could teach students to take a problem from a sponsor. Perhaps it was in the InnovateX program. We would bring them together in groups of 4, 5, or 6. They would learn to work together. They would learn to communicate. They would learn to assign responsibilities to each other, then hold each other accountable. They would work with sponsors like DARPA, FEMA, VF Corporation, Lockheed Martin, Sierra Nevada, Ball Aerospace, all of our great corporate partners and great governmental agencies on solving a problem. But what we taught them is, don't assume that because the sponsor says that's the problem, it's the real problem, because our students are very good at critical thinking. So they were taught how to think and solve problem, create thesis, test thesis, and then ultimately start to design what we call a prototype. And I'd ask everybody to raise their hand and say, if you know what a prototype is. It's a term we use here on campus. That's a pre-prototype. And the prototype is the first stage of taking your idea to become an invention, something you can use. It could be something in a CAD, a computer-aided design software program like Fusion 4 or SolidWorks. It could be something that you build and you have wires attached and things called Raspberry Pis or Arduinos that are processing little microprocessors. It could be made out of wood. It could be a lot of things, but that prototype then is your first idea coming to reality. You can have prototype 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more. And then ultimately that prototype becomes a prototype. And how does it become a prototype? That's where Labriola became very important. If you haven't been to Labriola, I sure encourage you to. The Labriola family, when they saw that we needed a place that we could build and design we could take those ideas that we had prototyped, and now we're trying to create a prototype that becomes what we call an MVP, a minimal viable product. Well, how do you do that? You have to have sometimes really complex machines, CNC machines with 20 tool changers on them. Those are $200,000 machines that sit at Labriola, run by the remarkable Victoria Bell now. There's powder bed fusion and extruder 3D printing machines. There's electronic testing boards and other compute power at Labriola that allows us to take our ideas and make real strong prototypes, even to the potential scale of being that minimal viable product. And a minimal viable product is what you are going to take to market. And those are three really important words to us to distinguish from. There's a difference between being in market and having figured out what your customer looks like and will buy versus getting ready to go to market. So go-to-market strategy we teach our students is different than an in-market business plan. You actually design a business model on how to go to market. And so you might learn how to build that product and actually build your minimal viable product at the Labriola Lab. Now, what's beautiful is a lot of our students, a lot of our faculty build close relationships, friendships like those that are on this call that later might bring you together. You might say, you know, I've been in industry 8 years, 10 years, or 40 years, which I'm going to give you a 40-year case here later in this presentation. You might be two students that want to form something and build your own company shortly after graduating, or you might still be a student. I'm going to give you examples of all three of those, actually. So where do you do that safely? Well, that's where I give Mike and Kelly Beck a lot of credit, all the credit, because I'm sitting in the building with their name on it. But they said, we need a building that we can bring students, staff, faculty, alumni, or people that come out of a program called Westgate at NRail. Perhaps there's a cohort that's building a product there. They can come into a building where they have other like-minded engineers and applied scientists around the hallways that are also trying to do something extraordinarily difficult. And that's called starting a business and building it and going to market. So the Beck Venture Center was the final physical structure that we needed in order to create a home on campus supported by minds where our entrepreneurs could come together from all generations, all disciplines. It doesn't matter if you're in a discipline of energy or one in robotics or environmental engineering or management. It's a place you can come and build your company. And I give Zach Bennett, our director of the Beck Venture Center, all the credit for assembling a great team here. That team helps foster and bring together mentors and advisors that are often in our hallways working and advising our startups, because many of our startups have extraordinarily deep technical knowledge. They do not always have the strongest business acumen knowledge, which is equally important to build a company. So what we foster here in the hallways of the Beck Venture Center is helping our remarkably talented and knowledgeable, but technically disciplined individuals get business knowledge on how to build their company. That's the final physical structure piece in the vision that PCJ had long ago of putting $70 million approximately into this physical infrastructure, where we begin to learn about customer validation. We prototype and prototype in Labriola, and then in the Beck Venture Center, we actually bring our ideas to life with other like-minded individuals and with the help of mentors. Now that I've given you a framework around the physical infrastructure and why it was so important, because we begin with teaching about how you think about a problem solving, creating a prototype, even doing customer discovery and validation, how you might build a product at Labriola that's strong enough to be a minimal viable product, how you walk across campus a quarter mile or so from Labriola into the Beck Venture Center to get help from mentors and advisors. Even our limited partners in the fund are frequently in our hallways, helping our companies build their next great idea. So the idea around the why is, why can't we take an idea, bring it to reality, and shoot for the moon in success? And in the course of that, take the ideas that we learned here and apply them in a commercial way that might benefit the world, that might in fact benefit society. Here are some people that have done it. I just love everybody on this slide. In the middle top section there in the researcher jackets, that's Dr. Melissa Krebs, associate professor here at Colorado School of Mines. She's mom early in the morning. She's faculty late in the morning. She's CEO in the afternoon. And then when it's time for bed, she's mom again. and yet she's built this remarkable company called Gelsana. If you look at the young lady, red hair in the bottom left of our screen, that's the remarkable Taylor Anderson. Got her degree in chemical. She went on, she did the 4+1, 4 years to get her chemical engineering degree, 1 year to get her engineering technology management. She found that she and her friends, when they'd put makeup on, would break out and they bothered their eyes. So they said, hey, we know about chemistry, we know about chemical, we know about forming a company from ETM. We're going to form Provanity Cosmetics. That's a real company that's come out of Minds. The gentleman with the cowboy hat on, Nancy, you might appreciate, that's a great cowboy hat there on Sam. That's Sam Seaton, and he's definitely a cowboy up in Wyoming. And the far right corner with the red ball cap on is his business partner, David Ryan. They're both mechanical engineers, and they were friends here at School of Mines. By the way, Sam Seaton holds the record for carrying the ball for the football team, 261 carries in one single season. And today he created a great company called Infinite Outdoors. I'll show you his product in just a minute here. And then in the middle, you've got the dark t-shirt. That's Alex Chu. And in the upper right-hand corner is Matej Chernosovsky. They created a remarkable company called Endrenum. Those are people that we're investing in and we believe in. They're all from Colorado School of Mines. Everybody we talk about is. This is a great picture here. Remember I told you I was going to tell you there's 4 generations. The gentleman on the right, that's Alan Lindsay, geophysics, 1986. The gentleman to his left, that's Connor, undergrad and master's mechanical engineer, started his PhD, found out he was a great AI engineer, and joined up with Alan. In the middle, that's George Truman, computer science. And the far left is the awesome Morgan Cox, data scientist and also adjunct professor. They came together, and I really like to joke with Alan, you know, there's four decades between you and your other business partners here, Alan. What I love about this beautiful story is what I just shared with you about the physical infrastructure, and then finally the Minds Venture Fund was the final arrow in the quiver needed to bring these 4 gentlemen together to form a company called HXMX. They took algorithms that are used on the Shazam music app that you can have on your Apple device to identify what music is. They said, I bet we could apply the same algorithms to reading oil logs. If we converted those oil logs to a musical pattern, then we could figure out the fingerprints in that oil log differently. And so we have 4 generations that the Minds Venture Fund 1 was able to bring together and create a remarkable product that I'm quite certain is going to be impactful to oil, gas, and geothermal. I also like this picture here. This is out at the hangar at Centennial. I'm in the middle there in the blue shirt, and to my right, that's Howard Jensen. Howard's awesome. He saw that there was a place possibly for Orbital Mining Corporation. That's Chris Tolan to Howard's right. Skip one over on the far right in the checkered shirt. That's Ken Liang. Chris and Ken created some remarkable technology that will be used to help put an energy grid on the moon. And they got their first funding about 2 years ago, $250,000 from NASA. It was a lot of fun. About 3 weeks ago, I was able to watch on the NASA streaming channel Ken accept another $500,000 check for what they've created. And there's a high probability what they're building might very well go up and be a part of the energy grid on the moon someday. So go out and look at the moon tonight. There's no twinkling lights on it right now. But if Ken and Chris obtain their objective, there will be a potential to have a power grid on the moon sometime, and our moon will have twinkling lights on it. Because of the Minds Venture Fund, we were able to bring people together. Howard and I were visiting one day talking about Orbital Mining Corporation, we called OMC. We talked about the guys, Ken and Chris. He said, I should introduce them to Bi Aerospace. They're building electric vehicles, airplanes. Maybe some of their better battery tech would fit in aerospace as well, but here, not on the moon. And so his relationships at Bi Aerospace brought together Ken and Chris with the founders at Bi Aerospace, and there might very well be a possibility for them to be working together. So my point being, this remarkable ecosystem we've put together is bringing people together, bringing alumni together, bringing faculty together to try to do remarkable things. And here's one of those remarkable things. This is what Dr. Melissa Krebs created. So she took it from the lab. She formed a company. She brought together business partners, some of her PhD students, and they formed Gelsana. The Minds Venture Fund, the reason we rapidly started it at the end of last year is we needed to fund Gelsana so she could get additional funding from a group called Innosphere and a couple of others, because we felt that what she had created really was remarkable. She created a extrudable, think about extruding toothpaste from your toothpaste dispenser, that has a high degree of elasticity to it. This is a polymer product that you can add antimicrobials to for wound care. And she had a real concern for trying to figure out a better solution than bandages for diabetics. And this wound care, because of its high elasticity, can be applied to any size wound. We also saw that it had applicability for rescuers, emergency rescuers, and our warfighters, that it would be a remarkable product for the warfighter med kit. That's probably why shortly after we invested to help get her lifted off the ground, the Air Force came up with $1.25 million in non-dilutive funding to help her to the next stage. And we're really excited that we believe in the month of February, with the new COO she brought on, John Fernandez, that this will go to market and be a new product, a new solution to wound care. This is the app that Sam in the cowboy hat and his friend David Ryan in the red ball cap created. They have a passion for the outdoors. They like fishing, they like hunting, but sometimes you can't get onto private land. So they created an app and said, we'll reach out to landowners and we'll see if we can connect landowners with people that love the outdoors. This app now has 2.5 million private acres on it in a few states. They're looking to expand to other states. It has the ability to drill down. You just see the high level view there, to know exactly where the property line is. And so it's kind of like, I call it the Airbnb for outdoor enthusiasts and landowners. It's a way to connect landowners with outdoor enthusiasts of all type so that they can make use of that private land. In the process, the landowner gets a fee. They don't have to worry about dealing with other people because the app does it for them. And it takes outdoor enthusiasts that have always hoped and dreamed of going on a certain private property, now a method to do that. This little device floating in the front left corner, I saw that thing created from the beginning using fishing wires and Easter eggs, truly plastic Easter eggs. This device was created by Matej and Alex, and it's evolved. At one time, its floating device was pool floating noodles. And when they made their prototype, they built into this hydrophones, microphones under the water. They connected it with a floating platform that has a very sophisticated, what I'd call data center component to it, that has the ability to send the signal of the data it's receiving underwater up to Starlink, Elon Musk's Starlink satellite system, and then beam that in nearly real time to the Pentagon. Now, you are probably familiar, unfortunately, with the tragedy of the war in Ukraine, and you probably hear a lot about drones in the air, but you may not hear about drones in the water. It is really hard to distinguish a drone from a porpoise, let alone a drone from a buoy. This has created tremendous risk to our nation's water assets, as well as to our land. And so you have to be able to monitor that more effectively and efficiently, as well as to monitor things like underwater telephone and gas lines. How do you do that? This is modern technology to how you do that. And the beauty of this, remember back to our facilities that we've stood up over the last 9 years here in PCJ's vision, the guys built this originally at McNeil. They didn't prototype it at Labriola because Labriola wasn't quite stood up. Labriola went live in April. But they did build it just down the street from where I am at 1600 Jackson. And then they modified that. Today, they were, 2 months ago, the top new technology that was demoed at JPEG in Maryland, and the Department of Defense is now in the process of signing two agreements with them. That was our third investment we made with the fund. We believe that what they're doing for national defense and for our allies could be really remarkable technology. There's another benefit that we get with the Minds Venture Fund. It opens up doors, painfully so for me sometimes. Painful that when I talk to people like Anduril Corporation, I'm hoping they'll become a limited partner. They might say, Todd, we only do direct investment. Sorry, but keep us informed. We might want to invest alongside you. That also gives me the opportunity to say, are you familiar with have you recruited on our campus? It gives me an opportunity to say, are you familiar with Capstone program? So I'm pleased to say that because of our efforts to stand up the venture fund, it sometimes opens conversations that might not have taken place, but then it allows me and my colleagues to pivot to other conversations. So now, because we originally talked about the venture fund, we now have Enroll Corporation, one of the most remarkable and watched defense and communication companies growing in our country, are now recruiting on our campus because they learned about the venture fund first, and we were able to open the door to other conversations. My hope is that with Chrissy, Dr. Ciavina, and Leah over at Capstone, we might be able to have a Capstone program as well. It also opened doors to Fortescue, which, by the way, Fortescue Center of Excellence is just down the street from us. But in talking with Fortescue about the fund, was able to say, well, are you familiar with recruiting on our campus? Are you familiar with WISEM? Savannah Rice at Fortescue, I think, would be a really wonderful speaker at the WISEM. And so I'm hoping that she'll be teed up for the month of March as we have the Women's Recognition Month. And also we've been able to introduce them to InnovateX and Capstone as well. It's also been a way to bring people together. I have found conversations with some of our alumni has allowed them to understand our E&I ecosystem a little bit differently and how all the parts fit together. And then it brings them to want to be a part of that at a deeper engagement. And I know many of you have been really generous with time and with money and with just telling our story. This is just another really great tool that we have that not many can boast about, called the inaugural Minds Venture Fund #1. Inaugural is always risky. It's the first one, and you never know how it's going to work out. People question, is there really commitment behind it? Is it really going to do what it says it's going to do? And I can absolutely attest to, because of the 3 companies I just showed you, that's just our first 3. We expect to have at least 35 companies in Minds Venture Fund #1. So I hope that next time I get a visit with you, I have a full page of nothing but people's pictures showing you the full-time employees that are now employed by the companies that have started up. In fact, Alex and Matej called me just a couple of days ago, so excited. Said, Todd, we hired our first firmware engineer. It's because of the investment. And I said, well, we've only got 3 more to go, and you do have your new warehouse. And when they want to hang their American flag up, I said, when you hang that American flag up, I want to be there, because then we'll have 4 employees to celebrate with us, and you will be well on your path to success in building your device. And so we're really able to provide the fuel that's really important to take all of our efforts in building these remarkable facilities, teaching students how to be bright engineers, how to use applied science, and then we're having alumni come around them and help them build their companies. So let me tell you what the Minds Venture Fund #1 is. The thesis is not concise nor short, and we really struggled with this because it shouldn't be. Now, in marketing and communications, people would say it's got to be concise and short and easy to understand and say it in one line. But remember, the Minds Venture Fund 1 was stood up as an integral part to the whole infrastructure I just shared with you to help everything come together so we could say we have a real entrepreneur and innovation environment here, a real ecosystem that's designed to take ideas, move them to reality. And we can't move them to reality without capital. That's just a fact. Now, we can use some non-dilutive funding from various organizations, but having capital as the fuel is important. And we wanted this to also be not narrowly focused. It would have been really easy for Minds to stand up a thematic fund #1. You could call it the Materials Fund #1, or the Petroleum Fund #1, or the Mining Fund #1. We called it simply Minds Venture Fund 1, and we said if an idea comes out of any of our departments, basically 50 of our great departments, most likely those departments are involved in such important work that there's going to be enormous tailwinds behind them. So from an investment perspective, we can say we have tailwind. The other thing is we can say that many remarkable inventions are going to come out of every single one of our departments at some time in the future. So how do we help them do that? So our thesis is broad. If you are a Minds staff, student, faculty, or alumni, or you are part of the Westgate program at NREL, that qualifies you to come talk to the Minds Venture Fund #1 about capital. If you're outside of that ecosystem, if you don't have an affinity for mines, you can't access the venture fund. Now, you can come and be a part of the Beck Venture Center, and we welcome you here. But to seek capital, the purpose of Mines Venture Fund 1 is to provide capital to those who have an affinity for mines, because the capital we provide is the most risky. It's called pre-seed and seed. And it's because we're investing in very early stage companies that are just getting ready to go to market with their minimal viable product. And in some cases, we're helping them get their prototype to a stage that is stable enough to be a minimal viable product. So we want that capital to go to those who have an affinity for mines, because we believe that there's a remarkable opportunity to make a big difference with some of the companies that we see coming out of our research and technology transfer office, or coming out of simply the minds of our alumni and our faculty and our students and our staff. Now, some have asked me, Todd, to access the venture fund, do we also have to have technology come out of the technology transfer office, overseen by the awesome Walt Copan and our director, Will Vaughn? That's ideal. We love it when technology can come out of the technology transfer office and also qualify for the Mines Venture Fund, but it is not a requirement. We think it's great when that happens because we have great depth of visibility into the technology. We have great understanding of it, but it's not a requirement. It's just simply very nice when that happens. Why do we think the Mines Venture Fund makes sense in terms of a venture fund perspective? I just gave a really good case, I think, of we have the physical infrastructure, we have the faculty, we have the students, we have the support of our trustees and our board of governors and our alumni, many of them successful in entrepreneurs in themselves or have been successful senior management teams that have acquired technologies over time. We believe the stats speak for themselves. We know we've got a remarkable but small pool of alumni, special group of people. We have a special group of individuals graduating with undergrad and graduate degrees every year. We are highly ranked, not just in this country, but around the world for our skill sets. And we have skill sets that everybody wishes they had in engineering. We have remarkable capabilities in what I like to call the energy equation. That energy equation includes fossil fuels, renewables, and sustainables, from crude oil to natural gas to geothermal technology to hydroelectric to solar to wind. We cover the entire energy equation here at Colorado School of Mines. We are also the best at extraction and mining, and the world needs strong extraction and mining innovation. And we are seeing some really remarkable advancements taking place in mining that range from the incorporation of robotics to new sensor technology to new drilling processes. On the far right side of the equation, we also know that we're making great advancements in chemical and additive manufacturing. I'm really excited about all the things that are going on in our material sciences, including the work that we're doing in steel, alloys, and ceramics. We have a lot of remarkable things taking place, of course, in artificial intelligence, large language models, supercomputing, and what I call cluster computing in general. And we also have a lot of capabilities that we know developed in quantum compute. In fact, those of you that don't know, I see great things coming out of quantum mechanics, quantum physics, and quantum computing in association with our recent endeavors with Elevate Quantum, just 15 minutes away from here. I think the synergies we get through the Elevate Quantum program, coupled with our already established quantum capabilities here, will really create some remarkable companies for us to invest in the future. We run the Mines Venture Fund as any professional fund, but I think better, because I think we've de-risked the fund because we only invest in companies that have an affinity for mines. We understand the problem thinking skill set, the critical skill set of the individuals that are the founders of the companies. We know the disciplines they come to. I'm very thankful to all of our faculty and for our faculty administration and leadership for giving me access and also for them desiring to support the venture fund. I've called a number of our department heads asking for their insight, which is typically on the cutting edge of innovation. And they have given me remarkable feedback that I've been able to feed to our startup companies or simply as a part of our due diligence process. This team here, I give a lot of thanks for. They've been a part of this from the beginning. This is our investment committee. And I think you can see the names and the short bios on them there, that this is the kind of committee we want helping make decisions for us as a venture fund. Our venture fund is pre-seed and seed. It's the most aggressive type of investing there is, and it's the most important early stage investing there is. And these individuals each bring unique skill sets, experience, and knowledge to the table. I truly cannot stump them on anything, and we can be very broad in our discussion on all kinds of technologies that are coming out of our endeavors. Management team, also there's strong corporate governance, there's strong financial responsibility, there's strong process procedure built around what we're doing with the Minds Venture Fund One with this team here. Again, giving credit to Brian for being our champion and Steve Kreidler for helping form the early structure of the funds together. Because of Steve's hard work while managing everything else at the foundation, he was able to help piece together all the framework that we needed to stand this up long ago. And then, of course, I mentioned Zach Bennett, which I often like to refer to as my wingman, although I always feel proud when he calls me my wingman. We support each other very strongly here at the Beck Venture Center. Any startup, any faculty member, any alumni is welcome to walk into our offices any time of day. We're usually here from sun up to sundown to be helpful and think out loud with them about what they're wanting to build. Finally, and then I'll wrap up for some Q&A, here's the little details that we're in the process right now of raising $10 million. We have raised to date about 2.2 million. The foundation wanted to prove that it was behind this and put $1.5 million in as the first limited partner. There are some others on this call right here that were also in right behind that. And I keep that confidential, but I want each of those of you that are on this call to know, sincerely, thank you for stepping up early and becoming limited partners right away. It was very meaningful because of what you did. We had the capital to invest in those companies that I just showed you. And now what I'm asking, with a great enthusiasm, and that is that if you have a consideration or a desire to be a part of this, I really want to be this my moment to say, this is my call to action to you, that without fuel for the venture fund, for us to get the other $7 million that we need to raise to get to our $10 million goal, we can't give the fuel to these remarkable individuals as these remarkable technologies that could truly be world-changing or human-changing, like Gelsana's product, maybe defense-changing in what Matej and Alex are building, without capital. And so I'd invite you to become a limited partner. Just simply call me or email me whenever it's convenient for you, or stop by my office and visit in person so I can walk through the details. But here's the high-level details as we're seeking a few more limited partners to get to our 10 million. 10 million seed. And by the way, that $10 million allows us to fund, on average, $130,000 to 35 companies. We know that about 12 of those companies will perform exceptional as compared to the peers in the portfolio. Those 12, we plan on seeding about another 330,000 somewhere between year 3 and year 5. That gives them the additional lift they need to either get to one more funding round or to what we call a priced round, a Series A funding. And if they get to the priced round of A or B, then that really gives our company tremendous lift and we'll have success in our portfolio. The total time that will encompass will be about a total of 6 or 7 years. So our fuel with our 10 million raise is fairly minimal in the scope of what we're trying to accomplish in providing capital to 35 companies and follow-on capital to 12 of those to help them be enormously successful. If you have 12 companies successful in a portfolio, you will do very well as a limited partner. That's what I have to lead into my disclosure now of return is not guaranteed. You've probably seen that on a statement somewhere. We are in the most risky component of investing called venture capital, and on the farthest most risky side of that called pre-seed and seed, which usually means before revenue or very early revenue stage companies. But if you believe that the story of what we're building here at Minds, that we do think differently, critically, and problem solving we're really good at, and we really are in areas that are needed in terms of innovation, and those technologies that come from our innovation and our ideas will have strong tailwinds behind them, that a little bit of capital will give them the lift to make a difference. I would encourage you to become a limited partner. We also believe that the returns that we make will ultimately come back to the E&I ecosystem. In fact, I want to point out on here, other than one final point here, minimum investment's $25,000. My hope is that at some point we'll find a partner that wants to match what the foundation did at 1.5 million, but we welcome anybody at 25,000 and up as a partner. You'll see on here in the middle, 2.5% management fee, 20% carry. Now, I don't know what level of finance all of you have, so I'm going to say that there's a 2.5% management fee that the limited partners pay every year. So if Todd put in $100,000, I'd have a $2,500 fee every year to pay for the management of the fund. 20% carried interest is when there's a profit made, when the investors have received their principal back, and if there's a profit afterwards, whatever amount of profit that is, in the venture capital world and in the private equity world, the general partner will typically get 20% of that profit. Not so in our world. Since the general partner is the foundation, the 20% profit is donated back to the foundation to benefit the E&I ecosystem. So it is invested back into us. The success of our portfolio companies is then invested back into the foundation to help further the E&I ecosystem itself. It doesn't go to Todd. It doesn't go to our management company. It doesn't go to our investment committee. It goes back into the ecosystem. So my hope is that as we have Minds Venture Fund 1 and ultimately Minds Venture Fund 2 and Minds Venture Fund 3, we will have a completely new revenue source built on success of what we teach and what we build and what we develop by having 20% of that profit returned back into the foundation. So I can go over that in greater detail if you have any interest in becoming a partner. So finally, I want to come back to I'm pulling at your heart now. These are the people that we're behind. And I'm so excited to tell you that we've got about 50 companies in due diligence at different stages. That's just in about the last 9 months. We started being more visible about the venture fund about 9 months ago. We've been kind of quiet. You might wonder, why are you not hearing more about it now? We didn't want to conflict with the Minds 150. That was such an important sesquicentennial fundraiser for us. And you know all the many components that we had in making a very, very successful 150 fundraiser and all the many great things that came a part of that. So we did not want to confuse the messaging of what we were trying to accomplish with our 150 program. And now that we've been overly successful with that, we feel more comfortable being more visible and talking about the Minds Venture Fund 1 and also letting everybody know how important it is to provide the fuel so that our ideas get the lift they need to become reality. And that is the purpose of Minds Venture Fund 1, and where it finally fits in is the final piece to our entrepreneurial and innovative efforts. So to take you back from the beginning, 9 years ago, the hole dug to create the McNeil Innovation Center. Years past, programs are being built. People are coming out, the InnovateX programs and others, thinking about becoming entrepreneurs. We're seeing the fruition of that now. The people I showed you, many of them were part of the ETM program, the Engineering Technology Management program in Econ. Many of them were a part of the InnovateX. That's where they created this idea, this notion they could be entrepreneurs. By the way, many of those founders, Matej, he was an engineer at SpaceX. Alex was also a very accomplished engineer. Sam had a job at Shell Oil. He could have been there a long time. The guys at HXMX were Microsoft people. Some of them were at least. So they've decided to take on this great challenge of seeing if they can build a company. So that's what I'm very proud. I think we should all be very proud of, that McNeil to Labriola to the Beck Venture Center, now the realization we can be entrepreneurs, we can really build companies. We just need the capital now to provide the fuel to those very companies that are going through that whole ecosystem to make them successful and realize the full potential of idea to reality, make it a moonshot while you're at it. And that's what the whole ecosystem is about. So I hope that gave you some ideas. If you hadn't thought about how all those pieces fit together, I thought I'd share that with you just because I had a unique perspective into all that. I've been a part of the mentoring program for 9 years now, mostly as a volunteer before I was very thankfully given this opportunity to carry the banner on this endeavor for us. So to all of you, thank you for letting me do this. I'm very thankful to work with so many remarkable people and trying to do something hard with our startups. And I hope that you'll join this venture with us. So with that, I'll stop sharing and open up for any questions or answers. And we can share any information back to you post this call, as well as my contact information will be made available from the awesome Ruth Jones.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Todd. Amazing. I did see a question come through the chat a bit earlier, and I know you've touched on some of this to some degree, but from Tom, please describe briefly your due diligence process.
That's a great question, Tom. So we have a level 1, level 2 due diligence. Level 1 begins with, number 1, check off, do they have an affiliation with School of Mines? Number 2 is people. We dive into the people because, as you know, at this early stage, it is all about the people. We want to know their background, their skill set, if they've been in industry or not, if they were in the lab or not. We want to see how they work together as a team. We want to be sure it is a team. So we spend a lot of time getting to know the people, how they work together. Is there friction between them? Is there agreement? Is there clarity on who is the CEO and who's the CTO and who's the chief revenue officer and what their roles are? In some cases, those haven't been defined, so we have to define those. So we really focus on the people component first. We then look equally to product and technology and possible intellectual property. So we dive deep into what that is. If they've got intellectual property housed at our Research Technology Transfer Office, I'll visit with Will Vaughn and we'll talk about the technology there. He provides excellent insight, by the way, as a part of that. And we'll want to see, is it a paper that was peer reviewed? Is it a provisional patent? Is it a utility patent? How are they agreeing to share in that intellectual property? Is it via equity, dilutive at, say, whatever million, 4 or 5 million? Is it a royalty agreement that's in place, or is it a combination thereof, or is that yet to be determined through what we call an option agreement that Mines uniquely has? I said that it's equal to something called the market. Do we feel that there's a strong understanding of the total market and what they can actually, what's called the service obtainable market, the SOM? Can they really penetrate the market to some degree with what they've created? And is it reasonable? Or are there really problems? It could be a new fuel source. There's feedstock issues. It could be that they haven't thought through the real capital expenditure that the end buyer of that product, the end customer, might need. So we have to explore product and technology. Does it fit with market as best as we can understand? And then finally, a brief, small 18-month pro forma. We don't want to see a hockey stick revenue estimate. We want to see how the burn rate is going to be on the money they're raising. We want to understand how they're going to deploy capital, what the milestones are, what objectives are, what the one single most important goal is in that due diligence. So that's level 1 due diligence. If they get through that, they will. We create a summary due diligence document that our investment committee reviews together. That committee always has questions. I take those questions back and I say, here's what the committee is concerned about. Here's what they're optimistic about. Here's what they'd like you to explore more. They want to know more information here or there on the market or the technology. We've done extraordinarily deep dives at that level into the intellectual property and how it's owned or not, or the market fit. If they come back with complete answers, documented and validated, then we go to level 2 due diligence. Level 2 is a deeper dive in what I just described, but we may get into other things, such as if there was to be sub-licensing or not. If there's data involved, what is their data protection standards? Do they have to meet Europe? Do they have to meet California? Do they have to meet Colorado data standards protection? Do they have the right types of tools and software around the data integrity to protect that? If they haven't patented, do we need to seriously be looking at that, or does it stay trade secret? So we just keep diving deeper into that. I'm really excited to say that as a part of that due diligence process, we've gotten the support of the econ department. There's a new student-led organization, NOBI, National Organization of Business Engineers. They're going to be engaged in the due diligence with me now, and they will actually be able to put that on their resume as having done due diligence for the Mines Venture Fund. So I'm excited that that's called applied learning that our econ departments are bringing to our due diligence process. In addition, I had 3 of our engineers that are strong in large language models and artificial intelligence build me a due diligence tool that I can feed that information into. And the agents keep the information confidential in a separate container, but it reaches out and does additional diligence off various, it does diligence on everything. We built independent agents off the large language models for diligence around finance, diligence around people, diligence around market fit. So I can pull in a lot of additional resources in our due diligence process, not to mention that I can call any of our faculty. I, about a month ago, sat down with Bill Zish in mining, and he gave just remarkable insight to both Steve Kreidler and I, who were wanting to understand the technology that was developing and how it might really be applicable in mining. So we have a secret resource called faculty that we can go to and get diligence that nobody else gets diligence to. You'd be stunned. I've got about 40 venture firms I've done diligence on that meet our standards of people that have a shared interest, a shared value, a capability in areas that we have strong engineering. That the end of those conversations I always say, and Todd, could you connect me with? And there's always a faculty mentioned. So that's a extra resource that we have. So that's a great question, Tom, on diligence. Call it level 1, level 2. Obviously, there's as much as 18 to 20 hours in that kind of diligence that takes place. Not to mention the one-on-one time with the founding companies. Good question.
I see there's a question from Dan, Dan Cohen. Dan, do you want to unmute your microphone and ask your question? I'm happy to read it for you, but I'll give you that option if you'd rather.
Oh, there we go. Sorry, it took me a minute to find that button.
That's okay.
Hi, everybody,
go
and
ahead
thanks
and
very
ask
much.
your- Go ahead.
Thanks very much for the presentation. And I guess the question that I wrote is a bit of a question about the crossover between what the Technology Transfer Office would do and what you're doing as investors, where if there's an interesting invention, but it really doesn't stand on its own to be commercialized in a spin-out company, is there an IP pooling strategy that you would use to make sure that you've got something worthy of licensing and where the valuation of it as a portfolio could be something worthy of investment?
You've been there, done that, Dan, by the way you just
Yes, sir.
described that. Yeah, thanks for that great question. Yes, it's created now, and I give Will Vaughn, Walt Copan all the credit for this. And I will also add to that insight we've been able to get from others, including Zach Bennett and some of our mentors here, about packaging up patents that make them more powerful together and taking those out to market. Here's where the opportunity lies. There is more of that we can do. We're also talking about what's called reverse pitches. And Dan, you're probably familiar with that. And for those of you that aren't, where we package up our technology and then we do a call to action to venture capitalists and entrepreneurs and such in what we'll call the community, which can be broad, and say, we've got these technologies we've packaged up that we want somebody to commercialize. In that case, often let's say we have a faculty member involved or a PhD student or somebody like that, they don't want to leave tenure. They don't want to stop teaching. They don't want to stop researching, but they would be fundamental to being an advisor or the technology advisor around that technology. And so we're actually looking at doing our first reverse pitches around, I think it's 3 that we've identified, Dan, in the month of November. And then going forward, there'll be more of that. Now, this question can get even wider. I just talked about packaging and reverse pitching. There's additional technologies that we also need to harvest and then find owners for that. Typically, people have strong business acumen that want to pair up with the inventor of that patented idea. And that's something that we're building a list of that we can reach out more thoughtful and strategic around. And Dan, if that's something you or others you know of would be interested in that, please reach out to me. We're building our list around that now so that we can have better avenues of commercialization. It's a great question.
Thanks. I'm ready to step in and help. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks.
Todd, I see one more question here. We just got a few minutes before we're going to wrap up. And George, I see you there and you're unmuted. Take it away quickly if we can. And if not, I'm sure I can connect you with Todd so we can answer your question more fully. But do you want to go ahead and read your question, George, and then Todd can chime in?
Sure. My question's, will you develop an external ecosystem or partnership with third-party companies, new venture group or something like that? Companies have challenges and polling them could be great ideas to tackle for students at Beck. For instance, I actually chair for Kinder Morgan, large energy infrastructure, the new technology subgroup. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've been scouring, involved with research at Mines and Stanford and just about everywhere else, trying to find technologies that would mitigate our greenhouse gas footprint across our value chain.
Boy, absolute alignment, George. Thanks for bringing that up and would love to connect with you. Yes, is the question, is the answer. We really value building relationships directly with the corporations or their corporate venture arms and others in the marketplace, be it venture capital, private equity, private individuals. We want to be a network here at the Beck Venture Center where we can take our startups, when they come to us and they say, I'd like to talk to a Kinder Morgan, I don't know how, but here's my technology, it'd be really great for their pipelines. Great new sensor technology, methane emissions monitoring, or whatever it might be, security of new sensor devices around for response and such. Obviously there's a lot of technology building there, George, that you're absolutely right. We're working hard to build those relationships. We've got a pretty good network built, as you can imagine, of corporations that have supported Mines for a long time. What we're weak on with those relationships is knowing exactly who to point to when we have technologies come up, to be able to call somebody like you and say, we think this might be applicable for a Kinder. We're not sure, but could you give us insight? Or point us to somebody in your network. So to all of you, yes, I'd make that call to action to say, if you have relationships that align with our engineering disciplines and our applied sciences, so when we have startups that want to bolt in, or we simply want to give visibility to those companies very early, because they may want to be a very early stage investor and then create pathways, pilot programs with those investments and co-invest along. We absolutely want to foster that. That's a very important point and something we're building here, George, that you bring up. So thanks for mentioning that.
Okay, everybody, thank you for your patience. We are at time, and in the interest of time, I'd just like to say thank you very quickly, and glad you could all join us. And of course, thank you to Todd for this very informative overview. Exciting things happening here at Mines, if you don't already know that. This is amazing. Ron, I see your question in the chat. I've copied it, and I'm going to connect you with Todd so that you can connect or chat directly about
I can answer that really quick. We don't need to be first
Okay.
dollar in, Ron. His question is, does Mines need to be first dollar in? No, we are here to support, and we are very flexible on when we come in, as to what stage. If it's a priced round, it's probably outside our reach at that point, because it wouldn't make sense to invest at a priced round at the level we come in. We come in with 50 to 250,000. But at the areas you're mentioning there in the chat, Ron, we're very comfortable coming in behind that or in front of it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Good. We will send out an email at the close of this session to everybody who logged on today with Todd's contact information and more contacts and details about the Beck Venture Center overall. So you can follow up with your additional comments and questions. And before we say goodbye, just a plug for next month's program, which will be on Thursday, November 21st. Same time, same place. And our speakers will be Bill Zisch and Hugh Miller from our mining department. We are still very much celebrating the sesquicentennial here, the 150th year. And we would not want to close out this celebration without hearing from the department that put us on the map. So we hope you'll join us. Bill Zisch serves as chair of the department currently, and he's an alum from the class of 79. And then Hugh Miller is a 3-time Mines alum, bachelor's, master's, and PhD from Mines in mining engineering, and amazing, the two of them. So I hope you'll join us for that overview and their take on the future of the mining industry. So with that, have a great day, Lunch Bunchers. We hope to see you all next month, and thanks for joining us. Go Ore Diggers!